It is time. It's time to stop hiding. It's time to stand up. It's time for Christians to come together, to share their testimony, to inspire hope, and to join their brothers and sisters as we answer the call. It's time to wake up the lions. Folks, I have a lion with me today on our show. I have had the privilege of talking to this gentleman before, and I cannot wait to have this conversation with him. Please welcome to the show believer, man, husband, father, coach, Brandon Mancine. Brandon, how you doing today, brother?
I'm doing very well, Rory. How are you?
Oh, if I was any better, I'd be twins, but don't tell anybody. I
That's
really,
another one my grandfather used to say.
really,
Yeah,
that's right. That's right. Every time we get together, we talk about your grandfather. I love that,
he
man.
comes up quite a bit. Yeah.
Right. Listen, we have a lot to unpack. I'm sure you've got a couple of great stories, but just to kind of get us started, let everybody know who is Brandon Mancini, what are you about, and what brings you here today, brother.
Yeah. Well, what sums it up is, as you said, believer, man, husband, father, coach, specifically in that order, because I don't think I can fulfill any one of those obligations without fulfilling the one before it. Um, I fairly recently, as we're recording this, that I gave my life to Christ. It was December 28th, 2024, and we're talking July of 2025. Uh, I did grow up. We were going to the Presbyterian Church in North Huntington, Pennsylvania, just outside of Pittsburgh, where I grew up on a semi-regular basis when I was very young, and then just through somewhat troubled upbringing, did not spend much time in church through my teens. Went to the Marine Corps right out of high school. I mean, I was shipping off to boot camp 4 days after I graduated high school. Um, was an infantry Marine, got to work in special operations with an anti-terrorism unit out of Norfolk for a number of years. Got into health and fitness. Shortly after getting out, I got out in June of 2000. Um, through working with a trainer who helped me, you know, Marine Corps itself breaks down your body pretty good, especially when you work in a special operations unit. Um, so I'd resigned to being the guy that couldn't run or couldn't do legs. I would just do upper body, and I had a personal trainer who came from a Marine Corps family, helped me um, understand that exercise and nutrition are regenerative therapies to help increase the body's capabilities rather than just beat the crap out of it for an hour. Uh, so that got me really interested in that as a career path, and I got into that. Um, Through that, met my wife. Uh, we've been together since the early early to mid 2000s. Got married in 2011, and I didn't decide to, for the longest time, we were just uh, involved in our careers and traveling and, you know, seeing the world. We said we would never get have kids, but then decided in late 2016, early 2017, we wanted to start having kids. So we started that journey. And then that's where, kids are in hindsight, it's obvious God was always with me through a lot of the things I went through. Like there's not much other explanation. But kids have a way of giving you a crash course in theology, in that there's this thing that comes from you and you want the best for it and you try to guide it. And it's pretty resistant to a lot of your a lot of your input.
Yeah, I love that.
But eventually they do come around.
As a father of three, that rings very loudly in my ears, so I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. The before we get into like all the other things that your other stories and so on, you recently gave your life back to Christ. What was it that caused that?
You know, it, there's not really one thing I could say, right? It was So if we go way back, like before I met my wife, like I said, he was always with me. When I was growing up really young, my parents got divorced when I was really young. We talked about this elsewhere before, but through that, I found myself at 11 years old in a ward for troubled teens. And then the doctors in there thought an appropriate therapy was to put an 11-year-old in solitary confinement. Um, and you can't, again, not getting into the specifics of that, but not that that was something I was happy to go through, but in that environment, the fact that I wasn't given some therapies, this was 1988. So, I wasn't put on a lot of drugs and just basically numbed to the world, uh, like has happened to other people. So I was fortunate there. I believe God was with me there. Um, Coming out of that, growing up with my grandparents who grew up in the Depression and getting like just firsthand experience from 11 on until 18 when I left for the Marines, like um, just they were Catholic, and so there was input there. Again, still still a teenager, but I had for the first time in my life, really just a solid model of a man and his wife and what that should look like, and they were believers. Uh, and then when I go to the Marine Corps, again in a high speed unit like Fast Company was, it was just so many chances where things could have gone differently. I just can't ignore the fact that God was with me. And through all of that, through all those instances, like I found a call to develop myself physically. I'm not a gifted athlete. I never was. But it's at different points throughout there, I would have resources that, again, just angel steered to me that were like, being stronger is beneficial and what strength is. And you and I have talked about this before, but I'm talking about it in the physical sense, but it teaches you so much. Strength is the ability of a position or pattern to maintain its integrity under stress.
Yeah.
So if we're talking about the physical realm, how much can you squat? And you can increase that over time. So that squat pattern can maintain its integrity under increasing stress. You do that by challenging the position or the pattern. So that's for your religious position, that's reading the Bible and not just reading it, but studying it and trying to understand it. Right. I'm currently working my way through the book of Luke. Um, then, as I move into my teenage years, I was really fortunate to have certain teachers that uh, would challenge me, right? And again, the same thing helped me build intellectual strength. And then so going through the Marine Corps, you get a mix of people, especially in the infantry. I mean, every single demographic is represented. So I had, the occasional angel come in there and preach the word to me, and again, I at key times steering me in the right direction that kept me from potential devastation. But for me, it always seemed to be paired with a call to physical strength. And so in 2001, it was 2000 or 2001, living in Norfolk after I got out of the Marine Corps, I was dating this girl. And she was a student athlete. We went to a Christ on Campus event, and it, so this is I've sometimes again I feel like my call has always been to developing strength, but I've found this a lot in uh in the Christian community. There was this preacher, and at the leading the Christ on Campus thing, and there's that point where you put your head down and you raise your hand and you say, he says, all right, if you want to give your life to Christ, raise your hand. And I was fully prepared to do that. And for some reason, he went off on a little tangent and decided that he was going to spend time talking about how you people who go to the gym and uh, just spend all your time in physical development, you're wasting your time. God doesn't care about that. And he was, I had a little bit more muscle then than I do now. And I was dating a girl who was a student athlete. She was in great shape. It was hard not to think that he was just targeting us. He himself was very, very, very out of shape. So I had this thought, I can't, Jesus talks about your body as a temple. I couldn't, so I didn't raise my hand. I was like, I can't get on board with that. I don't think that's the message. And again, I've found that message, unfortunately, uh, can be rather prominent in Christianity today. In with the inside and outside of the faith. And what I mean by that is there was a thing shared on social media recently where it had a preacher. The caption said, "This is how Christianity promotes obesity." That's what the caption said. So the person obviously trying, not a fan of the faith, right?
Right. Doesn't sound like
But when
it.
the preacher was, what he was actually saying was, there's people out there who are pointing the finger at people who are struggling with porn and saying, "Oh, you're lustful and you're sinning," but they're sitting there going back to the all-you-can-eat buffet for third and fourth helpings, right? And that's gluttony, right? So you need to deal with your own struggles before you point. So what, the splinter in someone else's eye, while the board in yours, right? The plank in yours. So and then to bring this all back together, the one of the things that really helped me, again, there was all this stuff coming together. My kids, and wanting the best for them and wanting them to have great influences, which are fewer and far between in society today. My wife alongside me, her getting more into the Bible and understanding of it, and then the misunderstanding that I held, that I think a lot of people hold, in Matthew 5:5, which is commonly stated as the meek shall inherit the earth. And the word meek, I think it's because it rhymes with weak. That's the way people take it, and they think it means to be timid or to withhold. That's not uh, uh, exactly what it means. A There are other interpretations that interpret the original text as the humble or the gentle shall inherit the earth. Now, that's different. And again, the original, or I'm sorry, the actual definition of the word meek, which is escaping me right now, but is not a synonym for the word weak. But humble or gentle more accurately explains it. You cannot be humble or gentle if you are not capable, right? So so the humble or gentle shall inherit the earth. The ones who can, but maybe withhold is a good word, can take big action, whatever that is needed, but look to teach instead, right? Look to guide, look to work alongside, not the braggadocious, right? So not the people who say what they could do, but rather humble or gentle. It is not um, unhumble, or it is not being gentle to say what I have done. And I think we need a lot more people out there doing that, because there's this concept I've been putting together, and I think we talked about this before too, that I call intellectual obesity. And that is the person who, because what is obesity? Obesity is uh, um, having an overabundance of calories. What is calorie? It is energy. Calorie is the amount of energy it takes to heat 1 gram of water 14 to 15 degrees Celsius. The amount of energy it takes to heat 1 gram of water 14 to 15 degrees Celsius. It's a very exact amount of energy. So it's overconsumption of energy that you haven't put into use. Intellectual obesity is an overconsumption of knowledge that you haven't put into use. So that is the person that, well, I read this study and I read this book and I watched this show and I watched this documentary and I can tell you how you should do this. Fantastic. Can you tell me what you have done? Right. So I'm in South Texas or Central Texas, San Antonio. We had the floods that hit here a few weeks ago. Right. And everybody loves to give, there's so much online about why it happened and whose fault it is and blah, 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 blah. Man, last Friday, I went up to Kerrville. I had a buddy, a good friend who runs a charity organization. He sent me a drop pin location, said, "Hey, if you can be here on Friday, let's go." I went up there, ran a chainsaw for 8 hours, met some fantastic people I've never talked to in my life, connected with them, swapped stories with them. We didn't talk politics at all. We talked about how great life is, how fortunate we are to be able to be out here helping people. I put a short post about that online. The messages I got about, oh, I can't believe you did it. The people who can't do anything, and they're always private accounts, right?
Yeah.
They are hidden away. They are withholding. They aren't doing anything in this world besides telling everybody else how they should live their life. That, man, I went off on a bit of a tangent there, but that has been my, a lot of how I came to Christ and as I learned more and more, how I misunderstood, uh, who he was and what Christianity is and what we're meant to do with this life.
Nice. No, you drifted a little into, some other stuff we're going to talk about. So, I mean, it works out really well, but that's okay. I appreciate your story all the way around. I'm sorry you
Thank
guys
you,
got
sir.
hit with that. I didn't realize you were right in the heart of it. I knew you were in Texas. I just didn't realize you were right in the heart of it like that.
Very fortunate. So when it happened, we were down in Houston for the 4th. We actually had great weather there, and again, very fortunate. My neighborhood is a little elevated with great drainage, so it hasn't affected my neighborhood at all. But there are some people about an hour north of me that um, not so lucky.
Yeah, for sure. Wow. Okay. Now you had so God's been active in your life, and you've been realizing
Undeniably
it.
so.
Yeah. I guess one of the questions I have, looking back at what you just unpacked, is were you aware at the time that God was active in your life, or are you aware now, looking back with today's lens? Are you aware now that He was active in your life?
Looking back for it's you know, what is the story that, life tends to give you the test and then the lesson, right? So I do try is the perfect word, try to be more aware of, I'm in the moment and the stuff that is happening right now is for a reason, and I need to figure out how to do the best with it. Um, and again, another great reason to have kids. They're a great reminder of there's somebody watching you and you're always setting an example, and they will follow your example more than they will your words. So yeah, the definitely was not aware in the past, trying every day to be more aware in the present.
I love that. Love that. I think that's all anybody can ask for. We look back and we realize it, and then we say, "Hey, moving forward, I got to be looking out for this type of thing." But
Yeah,
that's an awakening, brother.
100%. And
Absolutely.
talking with you, man, is always a great reminder too. So appreciate you.
Well, thank you for that. Um, I appreciate that very much. As we, move through things that we're talking about, the I would be remiss if I didn't, at least touch on, the huge, thing that happened with you with your accident and, your nickname and all that kind of thing. I know you've told the story about 6 billion times, but I am curious, as I look back on that, I listened to our other interview on, one of my other podcasts, of course, and the whole time I was listening to that, I was, prepping for us to meet today, and I was thinking, I wonder, I wonder if he knew God was looking out for him then, or if he just knows that now. You want to tell everybody a little bit about what happened to you? We have a much different
Yeah.
listenership here on this
Yeah.
podcast. So,
So I 2017, like I said, in 2016, 2017 is when we decided we were going to start having kids. And we had a rough go starting off. You know, without going into too much detail, my wife bore the brunt of the difficulties during that time. Uh, After our third failed attempt, November of 2017, I turned. So as we're talking, like I said, it's July. My 48th birthday is coming up in about 10 days. Um, so November of 2017, I had just turned 40 3 months before. At 40 years old, I was coaching at a couple different CrossFit gyms downtown. I was in the best shape of my life. I was outperforming the guys half my age in the gyms that I was coaching at. So the day, November 19th, squatting 405. November 20th, I was hit by an intoxicated driver and pinned between the front of his truck and the back of my Jeep, crushing my right leg. And um, without going into all the details, that's, they can go back and hear that in your other podcast. It took me 16 months to, when I was told I would not get there, it took me 16 months to get back to squatting 405 when I told it would never happen again. Um, and again, it's another moment where all things considered, I know I was lucky. The day before I was squatting 405 at 40 years old. It takes time and discipline to get to the point where you can do that. It's not something that just happens.
Right.
I also had a conditioning side to that workout where, again, I was outperforming guys half my age. That played a part in there. So bone density was up. So the accident would have taken some people's leg. It could have killed some people. Most people would have breaks. I had 3 severe bone bruises, no breaks, and I still have the rear bumper off that Jeep with my leg print in it. Now, again, back to like what I talked about when I was a kid in that hospital and I wasn't put on those drugs. I was given therapies that I don't think any 11-year-old should be exposed to, but I wasn't put on these mind altering drugs. While I didn't want to go through what I did, again, I was pinned between the front of his truck and the back of my Jeep. Now I
Right.
picture a Jeep. It has that big rear spare tire.
Hmm.
I had just cleared that. I was walking around the back. I had just cleared that. If I had not have cleared that, I would have been caught between that tire and the front of his truck, and that likely would have crushed my rib cage and my spine.
Yeah.
Probably would not have survived that. So all things considered, if I had to go through a situation like that, was I lucky? By inches, absolutely. Or was somebody with me, guide me through there, right? Now, like I said, that the 2017 was already a rough year for a lot of reasons. Like I said, we were trying to have kids. We had some legit struggles in our business. So my wife and I own a hair care brand, Hair XT. We're the all natural drug free alternative to products like Rogaine and Minoxidil.
Yep.
If you're in Texas, you can find us in the beauty department at HEB. Um, but we had some hackers break into our accounts and drain all our business accounts and stuff like that. And a lot of things. I again won't waste time in the details because honestly, it's kind of boring at this point. But it was an incredibly stressful year, and then that happened. There were things outside of the business, friends who or people who I thought were friends were really ended up backstabbing and things like that. So then that happened, November 19th, 2017, and I had literal and figurative step by step that I had to work on my recovery. And that first night laying in the hospital bed, my wife, who did not leave my side for a whole week, except a couple of times I asked her to go get some Chick-fil-A. That first night I'm laying there, I'm like, I don't know, like what is happening? Things were already bad, and then this, and the next day, like the outpouring of support. I have guys that I was in the Marines with who I hadn't seen, like we're on a text chain, but I hadn't seen them in like 10 years. They're on the phone with my wife before some of my family members, um, clients, and my just because my family hadn't heard about it, just I had this amazing support system is the point of it, right? And they all were coming in and helping out. and everything was great besides the fact that my leg was crushed and I had to keep it over my hip, right? So I did have this, I kept having this thought like things are so great right now. Besides, I can't, I have to lay down and lay back. Did I die? Like I remember thinking that, like my wife's by my side, not leaving. I'm getting all this love and support. I just have to lay here. Is this heaven? Right? Um, you know, obviously it wasn't. Eventually had to try standing up, learn to walk again, all that good stuff. Um, and then back to the real world. But it did have a way of clearing out uh everything. And then a few months after that, my we got my wife pregnant. That one stuck. That gave us my son Gavin. Um, then my daughter Freya was born a few years after that. So he's now 6 and she's 4. They're at a birthday party right now with my wife, having a blast. Um, so yeah, man, that he was definitely with me, right? Because it that so easily by inches could have been the end,
Yeah.
right? And yeah,
Did you know that at the time?
I that was the part of the question I think I was kind of getting it, you know.
Yeah.
I remember thinking like, did I die or what? Why am I still here if I didn't? And what is the point of this, right? And yeah, it's as a trainer and coach, I remember my wife telling me like, well, again, you didn't even break your leg. The upside to this, we had this conversation much later. The first at first I didn't want to hear any upside. She's like, the upside of this is it's undeniable that your methods make you harder to kill. This is, more people need to understand what you do works for the short term and for the long term. More life on the X and the Y axis, more ability to serve people, because that's ultimately why we're here, right?
Yeah.
Again, at 47, about to turn 48 years old, having served in special operations, which beats the crap out of your body, and having gone through the things I've gone through, it again, it's still pain, right? The body still hurts sometimes, but I'm able to get out there and work with guys who are a lot younger and help people that really friggin' need it.
Nice. Nice. Clearly he has plans for you, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, clearly. I mean, because you tried
He has,
real
he has
hard.
plans for all of us.
You tried real
I
hard to derail him.
I did.
Yeah, but no, that's awesome looking back like that and just recognizing the involvement.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you telling the story. And I imagine you reach a point where of saturation with that story, and you just don't want to tell it anymore because does it make you numb or does it still hurt when you think about it?
Yeah. You know the the tough part of that story, and I'm gonna try my best here. I didn't go into some of the details because uh, it left. I take um, uh, uh, like I said, a big part of the reason where I'm not the big aesthetic guy, right? Like I'm not the guy. I'm not a bodybuilder. You're not going to find me on stage in bikini briefs, like flexing and posing. I'm the capabilities guy, right? I I want to be useful to God, my wife, my kids, my family, my community, and that's what I train for. I always talk about the empowering goal in the next 3 to 12 months, which you want to be able to do, and then the lifetime or legacy goal. What type of old person do you want to be? I want to be when my kids are in around 20 years old. I'm gonna be in my 60s. I want to follow them on adventure trips. Right. The aesthetic goal is good. Like I like taking my shirt off at the pool at the in the summer. Right. But that's a side effect. So the some parts I left out of that story are like when I was laying in that bed. Um, Feeling useless to my wife, to my friends, all the people that were supporting me. But I come back to you don't, this is what I tell all my clients. You don't have a support system. You are part of a support system, right? So again, this is not bragging because it's just stating a fact. I was very lucky to have that support system, but I had it because I spent years curating it. I have
Yeah.
standards and expectations for who's in my life, right?
Yeah.
I hold myself to standards and expectations to pitch into them. So the part of the stories that I left out was because it's hard to talk about is that day my wife had to drive home from Austin. She was working up in Austin that day, knowing that I was sitting my way to the emergency room in an ambulance, right? And 35 traffic is horrible, and that's already stressful enough. And then for the weeks and months afterward, I was, you know, at first completely useless, could not stand up, eventually, you know, taking 10 steps with a walker and then with crutches and then with a limp, but step by step getting more and more capable. So that's probably the easiest I've ever talked about that with getting emotional about it because it's hard to to relive those moments where couldn't be there for them. But they were there for me because I had been there for them and they trusted I would be there again for them in the future.
Nice. Is that is that what your relationship with God is like now?
Oh yeah, yeah. Uh, except, I fall short every day. So
That's awesome though, man. The let's change gears a little bit. You mentioned a little while ago you were talking about some of the hate you get on some of your posts, things like that. I'm
yeah.
certainly certainly no stranger to that. I've gotten plenty. Um, but what sort of blowback have you gotten from talking about your faith at all, from putting things out there at all, on social media or in person, or anything else?
I mean, the it's weird, man. I don't when I first posted about it, like my wife and I took a picture at church and it was a selfie. We took it at church and that day so the day we gave our lives to Christ, again, December 28th, 2024, we were at church and we were at the service and they did that part where you put your head down and raise your hand. We hadn't talked about it. We hadn't talked about it at all, but we both put our head down and we both raised our hand. Uh, it wasn't coordinated, right? Um, there's just, as long as her and I've been together, there's so many moments that are like that. Uh, she probably won't listen to this, but love you, babe. Anyway, um, uh, so that happened. Posted the picture to social media with just the caption "Christ is King," right? Like follower count immediately dropped. Just, okay, I'm. I wish you the best. That was the first time I was like, well, that's. I guess I maybe kind of expected it was a not that it matters. I'm not saying I care, but it was a larger drop than I expected. Anytime you take a stand on something, you're gonna, there's gonna be people that uh drop. There was a lot of love in it. Like when I posted the post about my accident, that went viral. Like that got a couple million views, and of course, there was a lot of love and support. But then there's of course like the dumb statements, like wish the truck would have finished the job or something like that. So the in sharing uh my journey with Christ, a lot I will say I've gotten a lot of questions that are open ended, which is good.
Hmm.
I don't kind of like I'm doing in answering your question here. I don't engage in the hate. Like a lot of times I sometimes I'll just block, right? If it's something really ugly, I just, you know, I know who that is, so get out, right? But if it's just something like there's these people who are on the, you know, just wasting their life commenting, and they're
Yeah.
wannabe comedians. And so I won't even comment or reply to it or give it any acknowledgement at all. I've got better things to do.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, I call it bless, block, delete. That's
Bless, block, delete. That's good.
pretty
That's
much
good. I
it.
may steal that.
Yeah, I feel free, and it works for me. I don't engage with that stuff either. I just go, hey, bless, block, delete, goodbye.
Love it.
The hate gets a little crazy, at times, but um, it's funny because you can't experience that unless you're actually putting yourself out there a little bit. So I appreciate the fact that you do that. I know that a lot of other Christians do too. The spiritual warfare is real, and we all have to kind of deal with it. But
Hmm.
the reason that we have to deal with it is because and this is one of the other things we talk about on the show, is that we're all called to build discipleships. We're all called to spread the word, and we're all called to bring more people, under our wing, into our cause, that type of thing. And the hate is designed to stop us from doing that, to get us to be real quiet, to get us to tone down the God thing, you know.
Yep.
Um, in posting about your faith, you are in fact building discipleship, because there's people who are going, oh, awesome, Brandon's a believer. I didn't know that. That's cool. And maybe they get a little more brave. Is there anything in particular that you do to try and build discipleship in people, or spread the word, spread His name, anything like that, or is it just sort of in the course of business you happen to be doing it?
It's, um, I mean, living it for sure, right?
Right.
And this goes back to what I talked about earlier with intellectual obesity, right? Social media can be a highlight reel. I think it's important to share shortcomings and that share what you struggle with as well. So it's important to be real, consistent, and have integrity. So what you do online should match what you do in the real world. So I constantly, or as often as I can, invite people to church. I have a friend I haven't seen in a number of years who's he bringing his family to our church uh, this Sunday. Or that's the plan anyway. Um, Bringing my kids up that way. The preacher at our church has stated a couple of times now how my son, 6 years old, is very strong in his faith, as strong as he's seen kids that age, which I love hearing. Um, Lets me know I'm doing some things right. Uh, Actions in the real world is how I would summarize it. I'm glad that is coming through online. I try to be as authentic as I can. Um, there is it's there's always those questions that pop up in the back of your head of are people gonna like this? Should I do this? Should I say this? Should I post this? That's with my reel about the accident that went viral. There's a quick story that I think points a lesson in there. I put that post together, just and it showed the progression of the day before, or some extra some me clips of me working out before the accident, the day of the accident, and then my comeback reel all the way back to 405 squat. I put that together and I saved it as a draft. I was like, this is cheesy. Nobody's going to care about it. And I showed it to my wife, and she started crying.
Ah,
So I was like, I've got to post this now. So I posted it, and again, so much great feedback. So I say that to yeah, there may be a voice in your head telling you shouldn't do something. We all know who that is.
right.
Ignore it. Ignore it. You feel that feeling that you should do that because it's what you're called to do. So have faith, take action.
Nice.
As I always say
Yeah.
in my videos, get strong and do stuff.
Get strong, do stuff.
Yep.
I appreciate the PG-13 version of that.
You know it. Yeah.
for this podcast, especially. No, I love that. It's funny because, that is, in fact, building discipleship. And I applaud you for it, man. I really do. I mean, I watch it online. I see you leading by example. When you bring it up with folks, they hear that and they feel like it's this overwhelming thing they have to do. Oh my gosh, I got to go talk to like a room of 5,000 people or something and give a presentation and, build a congregation. No, you got to just go lead by example and invite someone to church.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
And if I can take a moment and just bring it back to what I think I was called to do, like we need more men and women in the Christian faith to take their temple more seriously and work on strength and conditioning or get strong and do stuff as I've said, right? Uh, and however we want to approach it, we could talk about God saying it's your temple, or we can go a million different ways, but I'll even break it down scientifically. There was a study done where they took couples and gave them competing tasks to get done, right? And their competition was they would have 25 different tasks to compete, the man and woman, and whichever one would win would get to the other one, loser would have to put on headphones, and the winner would get to hit them with a sound blast for they would determine the volume and time, just an annoying sound in their headphones. And both were given a voodoo doll as well that they would get to put pins in representing the other one after. And it was, just to see how it responded, how they responded. Now here's the interesting part. The people who had better blood glucose levels, more healthy blood glucose levels, obviously put less pins in their voodoo dolls representing their significant other, right? Now, here's the really interesting part. The people who had worse blood glucose levels, not only did they put more pins in the needles representing their significant other, but even the ones that won, they treated their significant other worse with the sound blast they put in the headphones, right? Now, what is one of the best things you can do to help your body regulate blood glucose? Develop musculature,
Uh,
right? So the more muscle mass you have, the more healthy you're going to be for the long term. We can go into all the different details there, but just trust me. I've been doing this for almost 25 years now. That's a quarter century. More muscle mass helps you be healthier short term and long term. But as I just demonstrated there, it is going to make you better at loving the people in your life. Make it easier for you to love the people in your life. Make it easier for you to be in a good mood, whether you're having a bad day or a good day. It not again, I've already covered it makes you more capable, harder to kill. It makes you better at loving those around you.
love that. It's great advice for
I'll
folks.
look up I'll look up the link of the study and I'll send it to you, Roy, if you want to put it in the show notes. But yeah.
100%. I would love to do that. Yeah, if you shoot it over, I'll get it in there. It's funny because the only time I ever hear that working on your body is a bad thing is from folks who are obviously committing the sin of gluttony.
Yeah,
They're the only ones talking about it. You can't go out and do your own work. You can't go out and do God's work. You can't go out and spread the word or build discipleship or, battle evil and spiritual warfare. You can't do any of that if you can't get up and function. You just can't. So, I mean, I think it's vital. It's a vital piece of what everybody's doing to be strong physically. So I'm
yes,
glad that,
sir.
that's what your proponent is. I think it's awesome that you've been called to that and that you feel that way about it.
Thank you,
Oh,
Roy.
for sure, for sure. The As we kind of bring this to a close. Let me ask you this because you have a lot of experience with speaking to large numbers. Okay, you've done
Mhm.
presentations, you've been in front of large groups in person, you've been on social media for forever. You have a podcast now, which is fantastic. Congratulations to you on that.
Thank you.
So you are putting your word out and spreading the word, and you are not quiet about being a Christian. You're not jamming it down anybody's throat, but you're not, toning down the God thing and trying to pacify somebody else. For those people that are out there that are just a little gun shy, that are thinking, maybe I shouldn't say anything. They're letting the spiritual warfare kind of win. And so they're doubting themselves and they're saying, hey, maybe I should just be quiet about it. Maybe I shouldn't share that this happened. Do you have any advice for them on maybe how to approach it, how to make it easier, how to go forth, with doing that? Any thoughts you might have on that topic?
Yeah, I mean, I would say number one, read your Bible. I mean, that's and not just read it, but study it. Like try to understand because it was written in a different time, but
Yeah.
the message is there. Uh, I'll come back to support system. Like, don't just go to church, but engage with your church. We're very fortunate. We have an amazing church that we go to. Um, and just don't be afraid to talk about it. Seek to understand, uh, then be understood. Right. So when someone makes uh a comment or asks a question about, well, what about where it says this? Well, what does it say? What do you understand that to mean? Right? Because as I said, like my misunderstanding of Matthew 5:5 that tied my understanding of it, not its true meaning, my understanding of it that tied to that message that I was getting from a pastor who I think was misguided,
Hmm.
um, kept me away. I take ownership over every decision I make, right? But kept me away from God for a long time. We're talking about between that moment with him and when I gave my life to Christ, that was 2 decades, right? So a little bit more than. So um, seek to understand where the criticism's coming from. Again, if it's online, a lot of that isn't even real. Uh, and then engage with it, and that's reading your Bible, building your support system, and seek to understand. Like that's going to help you grow. Because if someone brings up a question and you don't understand, well, where's the answer? Right here,
Right
right?
there.
So, right, it comes back to the first one. So, yeah,
I love that. I love that.
thank you.
I also, and I didn't touch on it earlier, and I'm glad you brought it up again. The idea that that one individual, with what they said and with the way they were more than likely a little misguided, um, they kept you away for a while, and so that's a great message.
So, but let me say the my misunderstanding kept me away. Again, I want to take ownership of it. It wasn't um had I been reading the Bible at that point, right? I had one, wasn't reading it. And I wasn't asking questions about what he meant and what that. So read the Bible, build your support system. Let me come back to study the Bible, build your support system, and engage in your church and in those questions that come up.
I like that. Take
Thank you,
responsibility for your relationship with Jesus. It's pretty good.
sir.
It's pretty good. I like it, man. All right, Brandon, I applaud you, man, on everything you do, like I always do. I've been a follower of yours for a while, and I'm a fan, man. I like your stuff. I
Back
like
at
what
you,
you
sir.
I
Thank
like
you.
what you put out there, and I want to thank you, obviously in His name, for just being a lion, for being a leader out there, and leading by example, showing people what living a life, close to God can look like. I appreciate that, and I know others do too, man.
Thank you, Roy. Thank you very
Cool.
much.
Thank you. Folks, I'm telling you right now, we keep bringing these powerful people on here, and I absolutely love every minute of it. Love these conversations. I hope you do too. Hope that you're inspired to speak up, like Brandon has, and to really take ownership, like he said, of your relationship with God. Um, Believer, man, husband, father, coach, Brandon Mancini, with us today. Brandon, why don't you let everybody know how to find you, man? How can they contact you?
Yeah, for sure. If you're on Instagram, Coach Brandon Mancini is one of my handles. I have a backup handle, two backup handles actually. A real life Wolverine is the name I was given after that accident, and then Brandon Mancini Fitness is the name of my company. So BMF Coach is another one. My website, you can just go to brandonmancini.com, or bmfcoaching.com is probably the easiest way to spell it. If you're on TikTok, I've got BMF Coach. So a couple different ways to find me there.
Perfect. And I'll tell you what, we'll put all that stuff in the show notes too to make sure everybody can reach you. 100%.
Rock on. Thank you, sir.
Absolutely, folks. Folks, that's, I tell you what, that's it because it's time. It's time to wake up the lions. Truly is. But more than that, it's time for you to take your rightful place with your brothers and your sisters, to let them hear you roar. The world's ready. So are you. And at some point, you just have to believe it. Until next time.